This is a continuation of the video lecture natin ng premium and discount. On this video lecture, pag-uusapan natin ang straight line method of amortization. To give you an overview kung anong mga pinag-usapan natin doon sa video lecture natin ng premium and discount, meron tayong example na ang nominal interest rate natin ay 8% and the life of the bonds is 5 years. Kapag ang investor in-acquire niya ang bonds na ito at face amount, wala tayong magiging problema. Alright? Wala tayong magiging amortizations of the premium or the discount. Ang nagkakaroon tayo ng amortization kapag si investor in-acquire niya ang bonds na ito more than the face amount or less than the face amount. Kapag more than the face amount, the difference between the acquisition cost at ng face amount, yan ang tinatawag na premium. Ang difference naman ng acquisition cost sa face amount kapag ito naman ay in-acquire ni investor ng mas mababa pa sa face amount, and this is what you call the discount. The difference between the acquisition cost and the face amount, yan ang tinatawag mong discount. On this video lecture, ang pag-uusapan natin is kung paano natin ito i-amortize itong premium na ito using the straight line method of amortization. And then, pag-uusapan natin in a little bit yung discount. On the transaction date, dahil in-acquire ni investor ng 5,500,000, let me write down my timeline here. On the transaction date, kung kailan man yung transaction date ni investor, and we have our maturity date. The life of the bonds on this example is 5 years. So we have year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. On the 5th year, that's your maturity date. Kung in-acquire ni investor itong bonds na may face amount na 5 million, in-acquire niya ng 5,500,000. On the transaction date, our entry is debit to the investment in bonds of 5,500,000 and credit to cash of 5,500,000. Remember, ang i-debit natin, ang ilalagay natin sa ating investment in bonds is kung magkano yung acquisition cost ni investor sa bonds na ito, regardless of the face amount of the bonds. So, hindi natin nire-record ang investment in bonds sa face amount. Nire-record natin ang investment in bonds sa acquisition cost. Now, on the maturity date, si investee, babayaran niya si investor at face amount. No more, no less. So, on the maturity date, kapag tinanggap ni investor or ng bondholder ang 5 million face amount of the bonds, ang kanyang entry is debit to cash of 5 million and credit to the investment in bonds of 5 million. Our entry will be debit to cash of 5 million and credit to investment in bonds of 5 million. Ang matatanggap lang ng investor from the investee is yung face amount na 5 million. So, ang ibig sabihin, kung in-acquire niya ng 500,000, parang natalo siya ng 500,000. Itong loss niya na 500,000 ay i-amortize natin over the life of the bonds. So, using the straight line of amortization, kahit na meron siyang loss, on the life of the bonds, kumikita naman itong si investor ng tinatawag na interest income. So, during the life of the bonds, si investor kumikita ng interest income. At ang interest income niya ay calculated sa face amount multiplied by the nominal interest rate of 8%. So, dahil yearly ang ika-calculate natin dito, our computations of our interest income received by the investor every year is the computations or the calculations of our interest income received from the investee is the face amount of 5 million times nominal interest rate of 8 times 1. 1 represents 1 year. So, ang ating interest income received from the investee is 400,000. Alright, so every year, tatanggap si investor ng interest from the investee na 400,000. Alright? At ang ating magiging entry to record this 400,000 is debit to the cash of 400,000 and credit to our interest income of 400,000. So, makaka-receive si investor ng interest income na 400,000 from the investee every year. So, our entry will be debit to cash of 400,000 and credit to the interest income of 400,000. Dito naman sa amortizations of our premium, yung ating loss, i-amortize natin over the life of the bonds. So, to calculate for our amortizations of our premium using the straight line method, our amortization is equal to the 500,000 divided by the life of the bond. So, every year, meron tayong amortization ng 100,000. So, yung amortization na 100,000, ang magiging entry natin dyan is ang ating entry on the amortizations of this premium, which is calculated every year, ay 100,000. Ang ating entry is debit to the interest income of 100,000 and credit to the investment in bonds na 100,000. So, ang ibig sabihin, dinidecrease natin ang ating interest income, dinidecrease din natin ang ating investment account na investment in bonds na 100,000 every year. So, therefore, ang interest income earned by the investor on this example ay 300,000. Bakit 300,000? Meron siyang na-receive na 400,000 which is credited to the interest income of 400,000. Pero binawasan mo siya ng 100,000 dahil meron kang amortization ng yung premium o yung loss mo, ang income mo lang every year ay 300,000 using the straight line method of amortization. Therefore, the interest income earned niya talaga ni investor, ang talagang na-earn niyang interest income from this transaction is 400,000 from the interest income received minus the amortizations of the premium. So, ang na-earn niya talaga is 300,000. Alright? So, ito po ang ating straight line method of amortizations of premium. So, ganito natin i-analyze at isosolve ang ating amortizations of our premium. Most of the time, ang tinatanong ng problem kapag meron tayong amortizations of the premium or discount, kung magkano ang interest income earned by the investor on year 1, year 2, year 3, or year 4. Dito sa premium amortizations, nagdi-decrease ang ating interest income. Remember, the premium is loss on the part of the investor. Bakit nga siya loss? Dahil pagdating ng maturity date, ang matatanggap niya from the investee is the face amount of the bonds. Another thing that I want to emphasize here is the investment in bonds. Yung credit natin sa investment in bonds na amortization amount ng premium. So kung kinikredit mo ang investment in bonds from the premium amortizations, binabawasan mo ang investment account na yan. So, on the transaction date, nire-record natin ang investment in bonds account na yan at acquisition cost. So, on the transaction date, ang carrying amount ng iyong investment in bonds ay yung acquisition cost. Pagdating ng year 1, after 1 year, i-amortize mo na ang premium natin. So, binawasan mo siya ng 100,000. At the end of year 1, ang carrying amount ng investment mo ay 5,400,000. Then, pagdating ng year 2, nag-amortize ka ulit ng 100,000, credit mo ulit ang investment in bonds na 100,000. At the end of year 2, ang magiging carrying amount ng iyong investment in bonds ay magiging 5,300,000. Ganon din sa year 3, magiging 5,200,000. Sa year 4, magiging 5,100,000. At sa year 5, on the maturity date, magiging 5 million na lang siya. So kapag tinanggap na ni investor from the investee the face amount of the bonds na 5 million, si investor, ang kanyang magiging entry is debit to cash of 5 million at isasara na niya ang kanyang investment in bonds na 5 million. That on the maturity date, 5 million na lang ang carrying amount ng kanyang investment in bonds. So sa premium, mina-minus natin yan sa account na investment in bonds. So pagdating ng maturity date, yung carrying amount ng iyong investment in bonds will be equal to the face amount the bonds. Pagtanggap mo ng face amount ng bonds, you will simply debit the cash and credit the investment in bonds. Ganito po ang pag-amortize ng premium using the straight line method of amortization. Paano naman ngayon ang ating discount? Sa discount naman, si investor, in-acquire niya ang bonds na ito lower than the face amount. Let's say, for example, in-acquire niya ito ng 4,750,000. So, meron tayong discount na 250,000. So, paano natin yan i-amortize? Alright, this time naman, ang pag-uusapan natin ay ang discount using straight line method of amortization. This time, discount tayo. So, nagkakaroon ng discount itong si investor kapag in-acquire niya itong bonds na ito ni investee less than the face amount of the bonds. The difference between the acquisition cost and the face amount of this bond, yan ang tinatawag na discount. Itong discount na ito ay gain on the part of the investor. Kasi binili niya ng 4,750,000 pero pagdating ng maturity date, ang tatanggapin niya from the investee is 5 million. Yung face amount ng bonds na yon. No more, no less. So, on this discount, on the transaction date, ang entry ni investor sa pag-i-invest niya ng pera niya kay investee is debit to investment in bonds of 4,750,000. Remember, ang laman ng ating investment in bonds on the transaction date or yung date na in-acquire ni investor, itong bonds ni investee ay kung magkano niya ito nabili. Hindi yung face amount. And credit to cash of 4,750,000. Alright, pagdating ng maturity date, ang tatanggapin ni investor from the investee ay yung face amount na 5 million. So, on maturity date, ang magiging entry ni investor pagtanggap niya ng 5 milyong face amount ng bonds na yan is debit to the cash of 5 million and credit to the investment in bonds. Dahil nag-mature na nga po yung bonds na yan, aalisinan rin ni investor as sa kanyang account. Right? So, we debit our cash of 5 million and credit to the investment in bonds of 5 million. During the life of the bond, itong bonds na ito, kumikita si investor. So, on this example, our nominal interest rate is 8%. Si investee, nagbabayad siya ng 8% every year sa bonds na ito. So, ang computations or calculations natin ng interest income ni investor ay the same sa ating premium na diniscuss natin. Our face amount of 5 million times our interest rate or nominal interest rate of 8% times 1 year. Kung ang kina-calculate mo ay 6 months, then times 6 over 12. Pero this time, dahil yearly, 1 year ang kina-compute natin or kina-calculate natin, we will multiply it by 1. So, ang ating interest income na marireceive natin from the investee is 400,000 every year. At ang entry natin ay debit to the cash of 400,000 and credit to the interest income of 400,000. Yan ang magiging entry natin pag ni-receive natin ang interest income from the investee. Another thing na gagawin natin dito sa discount is the amortizations of the discount. So this discount will be amortized over the life of the bond. And the life of the bonds is 5 years. Using straight line method of amortization, itong discount na 250,000, i-divide natin sa 5 years. So every year, magkakaroon tayo ng the same amount of amortization. So to calculate for the amortizations of this discount using straight line method, the amortization is equal to the 250,000, the discount divided by the life of the bond of 5 years. So every year, mag-amortize tayo ng 50,000 pesos. And our entry for the amortizations of this discount is debit to the investment in bonds and credit to interest income. So, ang entry natin sa amortizations of this discount is debit to the investment in bonds of the 50,000 na-compute natin and credit to the interest income of 50,000. So, kapag nag-debit ka ng investment in bonds, nagdadagdag ka, you are adding amount of the amortizations of the discount to the account investment in bonds. Kapag nag-credit ka ng interest income, ang ibig sabihin, dinadagdagan mo yung interest income ni investor. Therefore, ang interest income earned ni investor ay yung interest income na ni-receive niya na 400,000 plus yung amortizations ng kanyang discount, ng kanyang gain na 50,000. So, all in all, ang kanyang interest income earned is 450,000. Therefore, the interest income earned by the investor with the amortizations of the discount is equal to the 400 na ni-receive niya from the investee calculated at face value multiplied by 8% times 1, which is 400,000. Plus, the amortizations of the discount na 50,000, dinagdag po natin yan to get the interest income earned by the investor every year, right? By using the straight line method of amortization. Another thing that I want you to know about this is the carrying amount of the investment in bonds. So, on the transaction date, ang carrying amount ng ating investment in bonds ay yung acquisition cost natin. 4,750,000 ang laman ng iyong investment in bonds. Pagdating ng year 1 or at the end of year 1, nag-amortize ka ng 50,000. Nagdagdag ka ng 50,000 na amortization ng discount. So, on year 1, ang carrying amount na ng investment in bonds mo ay i-add natin yung 50,000. So, therefore, ang carrying amount ng investment in bonds natin ay 4,800,000 na ang carrying amount ng iyong investment in bonds dahil nagdagdag tayo ng 50,000 na amortization natin sa discount. Then, pagdating ng year 2, nag-amortize ka ulit ng 50,000. Ang ibig sabihin, dinagdag mo ulit. So, sa year 2, ang magiging carrying amount mo ng iyong investment in bonds ay 4,850,000. Pagdating ng year 3, magiging 4,900,000. Pagdating ng year 4, magiging 4,950,000 na siya. At syempre, pagdating ng year 5, which is the maturity date na ng ating bonds, magiging 5 million na siya. Then, nung tinanggap ni investor ang bayad ni investee sa bonds na yan at face amount, ang kanyang magiging entry is debit to cash of 5 million and credit to the investment in bonds of 5 million. Yan na ang carrying amount at maturity date. Dahil sa amortization natin ng ating discount, dinadagdag natin yan sa carrying amount niya. Dahil ang entry natin kapag discount ay nag-i-increase ang ating investment in bonds sa amortization ng discount. So, ito po ang ating discount using the straight line method of amortization. So, nagkakaroon ng discount si investor kapag in-acquire niya ang bonds na ito less than the face amount. The difference between that acquisition cost and the face amount is what you call discount. So, sa discount na ito, ina-amortize natin ito over the life of the bonds. And we have three methods of amortization: the straight line amortization, the effective interest method of amortization, at ang bond outstanding method of amortization. Itong video lecture na ito ay nag-focus sa straight line method of amortization. So, ang next na pag-uusapan natin after the straight line method ay pag-uusapan natin ngayon ang bond outstanding method of amortizations of the premium and the discount. Gagamitin pa rin natin itong example na ito. I'll see you on my next video, bond outstanding method of amortizations of the premium and discount. I'll see you in my next video.